Matthews. Now, Mike and I have really been looking forward to tonight's show because we have Bill Hunker on, and he's going to give us the 2014 crime statistics. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening, Dale.
Good evening, Dale. And Bill.
And Bill. Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Good evening to Bill and Mike and Dale. Hello, Dale. So, no, this is very interesting because as the little graphic over my shoulder shows, this is what Cuffs and the sheriff were saying. Okay, you just wait till the 2013 numbers come out. That's going to prove everything we're saying. Well, it didn't. Okay, then, well, the reason you guys are still wrong, those of you who vote against the property tax levy, is you just wait till those 2014 numbers come out. Why, my gosh, we're going to take that to the bank. You will see the reason why you had all made a mistake because you were relying on, as the sheriff said about Bill Hunker, myths. They were all myths.
Well, they're publishing the myths at the state level now, then, and for 2014, along with all the rest. So we've got more myths to bring you.
Yeah. So the thing is, on what shall we depend? People's gut feelings. Gut feelings are right sometimes. Okay. We all have an aunt or a wife or a girlfriend, and some have all of those, that have some kind of gut feeling, and you better pay attention to it because they're right sometimes, okay? Often. We'll say all the time, for the benefit of those who are married. And but on the other hand, if we're going to give you money, you better be able to prove your stats. And not just say, well, remember when we played last night for you the footage of the police chief? Tell them about that footage from the police chief, Mike.
Well, did we play that? Oh, we did play that last night. Well, it was the presumption on the part of the police chief that when they got this new funding from the elevated water and sewer bills that everybody in Grants Pass, I'm sure, is aware of, he thought that they were running the wheels off the cars, bringing criminals to jail. But it turns out that because of slight switch in criteria and their concentration on the type of criminals that they're going to be picking up and taking to jail, they were actually taking less people to jail, not more. And yet they were being more effective at their job, actually bringing less people to jail, which you would think would cost less money.
Yeah, and so that's really interesting that he brought that up. I'm not blaming the guy, but I mean the Cuffs folks must have been fit to be tied because here he was at their gathering.
They didn't even notice. I don't think they even noticed until we pointed it out. I don't.
That's
think.
right. Yeah, I agree.
Amazing. It's a kind of myopia, where they just can't see. It's kind of like there's an emergency for the sheriff, and then as soon as the levee fails, suddenly the emergency evaporates. There's no more emergency.
Right. Well, the supposition or the the presumption that people have about this sort of thing, I believe, is fed by suggestion. In other words, they're flogging this suggestion on us constantly, and so is it any wonder that if you ask people if they think crime is up, they'll go, oh my God, yes, crime it's horrible, it's horrible. They keep talking about it all the time, so it must be true.
They keep talking. This Channel 10 is doing it already. Yeah, they're already involved either with their knowledge or without their knowledge in the push for the next property tax levy.
Yeah, they began a couple of weeks. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, Mike, when you say that people have stories, this year in 2014 there were 8,031 stories. Okay, so you get that every year, plus or minus a little bit, and when those move around the county, another 8,000 next year, slightly different perhaps, hopefully different perhaps. You have now 16,000 people in 2 years who have stories. And one believes that in their mind, to have crime controlled means zero. It'll never mean zero. will always have the stories.
Mm. Yes, that's
And
correct.
stories down to eradicate crime in the county or in the city, either one. But we're going to try and keep it under control. And if you're a friend of one of these 8,031 people, crime's rampant. My aunt never had that before. The first time in her life. Oh, this is terrible.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that that's going to keep happening. The stories will continue.
Well, I've been pretty tough on KJO. I say, they don't cover the news. But the truth is, yes, they do. They cover crime news all the time. Wherever the crime is, New Jersey, crime is rampant, And anytime you could go there now. I don't know why you would, but you could, theoretically. And you go onto their news list, and almost if it's not about Simon Hare's now chair of the chair committee, if it's not that kind of announcement directly from the PR releases, which is what they are for the county commissioners, if it's not directly from that, then it's about crime this, crime this, crime this, crime this, crime this, and when you hear that kind of stuff round the clock,
yeah,
you might assume that KJO knows what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
What did the statistics say? Not that we need to be only governed by, goofy people who make charts and graphs. Sorry, Bill. But
Thank you.
what do the facts show us? What does the state say? Okay, I don't like the state. Fine. Do you also hate the state police?
And Dale, I want to put in early here again, and this is lost in the in the myth that I create supposedly. I am certainly not against funding the sheriff. Somehow, when we talk about crime, it's like we're against the sheriff, that he's done something wrong. Actually, the numbers are excellent. We're never going to eradicate crime. He was looking for money. The money came in. They didn't give it to him. As far as I'm concerned, he's owed another $1.5 million that's waiting for him, and he should have it. I don't disagree with that in one bit. And that has very little to do with taxes. Now, it has in the past, and they're telling us it's everything. But in this year in particular, that we can fund the sheriff far better than we have been this year, and we choose not to at a county level. So I'm not against, and the people I know are not against funding the sheriff. And to bring out these crime stats is not to prove anything about inefficiency in the sheriff's office or that type of thing. So it always gets interpreted, well, if you're talking crime stats, it's like it's all okay. Well, it's pretty good, and it's been going down, and so we're all pleased about that. But that doesn't mean we don't fund the sheriff in any respect.
I don't do a lot of talking about this on the show. I suppose it's implied, but you know that I'm going to be running against Keith Hick, and one of the reasons I'm running against him is because he said, I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care. Well, somebody needs to run against that guy. Okay, so I'm running against him. But I've laid out a couple of things that I think should be done. Number one is sending off a letter to the federal government saying, you've reached your contract with us. Send them a letter. Okay. Number two is get that $1 million for the sheriff that he should have been given. Now that's going to go some distance toward helping solve this problem where people feel they need to bug us with a property tax every year or twice a year. Yeah. Let's see that he gets the money. That's part of my platform. It's the core of what I'm saying. Let's have a break from property tax levies, please. We need one. Okay, we need a break, and let's see that the sheriff gets the funding. I'm entirely for that $1 million. Tell us about the $1 million that came down, raining down from heaven, Mike.
Well, yeah, Dale always assumes I'm an expert on all of this stuff, so I will tell you what I know. During the budget, battle, where they were deciding on how they were going to fund county government, there was a suggestion made by Margaret Goodwin that $1 million of road dollars could be used by the sheriff for for rural patrols. Now,
it had been before.
yes, it had been before, and so that got shot down. So she said, okay, how about $500,000 of road dollars for this purpose? They shot that down too. And then, even after that whole thing kind of became history, then they had another opportunity to divert some funds to the sheriff because $1 million, unexpected $1 million of timber money, which is not tied to anything. You can spend it however the county sees fit. So they could have easily given the entire $1 million to the sheriff, and they did not do it.
Now, two things. One is Mike brought that up at a meeting in Cave Junction, and Commissioner Heck just blew him off. And the other is, keep in mind that these road dollars are renewable. It's not like, a finite resource, only so much coal in the ground. No, this is renewable every year. And so suddenly the emergency need for striping was more important than the emergency need for law enforcement. Now try to tell that to somebody that's been killed. Try to tell anything to someone that's been killed, and you won't be successful.
And I think every time you talk about this, you do have to mention that I personally believe, and you can agree with me or not, but I personally believe that the reason for not taking that money and funding law enforcement to a greater degree with it is because if you do that, in the minds of some people, and some people is all they care about, if it's only a sliver of the population that thinks that, hey, the problem has been alleviated, they gave some extra money to the sheriff. They do not want that at all. Anything that is going to erode the vote for the next levy coming down the road, they don't want any part of that. So I believe that is the sole reason why they didn't give the money. They don't care. They don't care about bridges. They really. Do you think for 1 second that Keith Heck or Cheryl Walker cares about a bridge?
Laying up all night, tossing and turning about bridges that the state's going to probably help with anyway. Come on.
And listen, if Robertson Bridge goes out, that's a fairly good-sized bridge. Whatever money they have in reserve ain't going to help them on at all, because that bridge probably cost $30 million, maybe more.
Well, if there's a big earthquake, they've all decided they're going to duck underneath a table in the little back room. So we're not going to have to worry about those guys anymore either, and I'm going to get out the front door before the whole place comes down. It's a 100-year-old building that is not ready for earthquakes.
I suggest taking the window. That's more direct.
Oh, I may have no choice.
Yes.
I may go through the window anyway, and they may not even need an earthquake to toss me through the window. That's how upset they are with me. Bill, you purport to have some kind of new statistics for us. What's your proof?
Well, you can dial it up yourself on just ask for Josephine County Crime Stats, State of Oregon, and or just Oregon Crime Stats, and then you'll get the year's report, which is 280 pages, covers everything you can possibly think about, all the counties, all the divisions in the counties, and download it yourself and look at it yourself. So all I've done is pull that in, compared it with other years.
Okay, and, before we show the statistics here, because we've been waiting for this 2014, don't forget what the cuffs and the sheriff said. Wait till you get that 2014. This is going to prove everything. You guys are totally wrong. This guy you've been working with is spreading myths. We're going to set the record straight. You just wait. Okay, we're about to set the record straight here on this show. First, though, Bill, please tell us, where do these numbers come from?
This is Oregon State Police are the ones who actually put the report together. However, all they do is plug in the numbers that come directly from the various cities or counties. So if it's the county, it's the sheriff gives his numbers. Grants Pass gives their numbers, and that happens all the way through. And in some places like Lynn County, they may have 5, 6, 7, 8 other little entities all giving their numbers individually. And so these are brought in en masse. They then combine that, the sheriff, the whatever the cities are, and OSP and OLCC actually is in that too. OLCC has been so small in this county, I have not included it. It's usually 2 to 4 people incidents per year, so I haven't included that. But it's all there under each county.
If you don't mind me asking, Bill, what is the OLCC doing as a law enforcement function?
I think their whole thing is they go in and check that laws are being carried out in terms of the liquor stores.
They're the revenuers.
Yeah,
right.
They're the revenuers. They want to know.
From the old movies
that's being sold.
Right.
Yes.
Now, we're not going to go into great detail about are the crimes being reported or not being reported. And the reason why we don't have to this time is that these guys said, you wait till those 2014 numbers come out. That will prove our point. They didn't say wait till they come out, but we still haven't been reporting it. No, they didn't say that. They said this will prove our point. All of the numbers are going to be reported in this, and once you get this, then you'll know the error of your ways. Let me say that again. They did not say that the 2014 numbers would bear out their point that nobody's reporting anything. They said this will prove their point, and we should wait for this, and we've waited. And how long ago did this come out, Bill?
About a week.
All right, so we're right here with you. We're the first ones to show it to you. You know where to go if you want the news. And now, at long last, you guys keep delaying, we're going to show some charts and graphs, okay?
Yay!
Let's see them, Mike.
Okay, well, Bill, which one do you want?
Why don't we do Grants Pass, which is I think the blue.
Okay.
Only.
Okay, here we go. This is the Grants Pass, 2004 to 2014.
Yeah, so you can, and we haven't, the only new numbers to reach this graph are the far right, which are now 175. This is per thousand. It's not 175 crimes or incidences, it's 175 per thousand population. Mm-hmm. So they actually are come in at around 6,134 incidences of being reported. But per thousand we're 175, and these are all per thousand as it goes back. So you can see there's a noticeable drop. Did it go up in 13? Yeah, it went from 144 to 193, but it's come back down a little bit in 14.
Now, for those of you who are looking at this on a smaller set, you know, you're looking at it on a little handheld that you're holding. The far left number is 2004, which is 206 per thousand. That's pretty high. That's the highest one of all. And then the one on the far right is last year, and that says 175. And you can see it dropped from the year before. Now, what happened to the idea that this is going to prove that we're right?
Well, what they'll say to you, Dale, is that this is the city and they're doing a marvelous job, and I don't disagree. This is not county stats. They are not underfunded. Well, they'll all claim they're underfunded, and in some ways you could make a case for that, but this is their normal funding that they've had for several years. So they got either a little more efficient, or there's a little less crime, or something went on there between 13 and 14 to bring those numbers down.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly. Mike, tell us why this number then makes it look like a lie about the screaming need for a higher sales tax in Grants Pass to support law enforcement.
Well, you know what? No, but the bottom line is they'll tell you that this chart, these numbers don't reflect their need for a juvenile justice center, and that perhaps that the juveniles are underserved in our community because of the lack of that. So the sales tax, the thing that they were trying to do with the sales tax was to enhance the funding in the city, not necessarily serve it any better than it was being served.
But here's the problem with that argument, and it's a totally logical argument. The problem is that's supposed to That's supposed to then have an effect on crimes. I mean, that's the reason to do those things, is that you decrease the crime for everybody, not just to be sympathetic to kids. And of course, I'm sympathetic to kids,
Right.
but you're supposed to have an effect on crime.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And I think it's interesting to note that many of these years, back in the early part of this century here, '04, that was a year with full funding, and yet quite a bit higher. And
Yeah.
I would imagine that they had their juvenile justice program up and running, and I don't know the
That's so
specifics of this stuff,
strange.
but it's clearly higher than it's almost on a par. You could almost say that 2013 and 2004 are almost the same.
Here's the thing that just it throws me for a loop, because everybody that watches this show know that I made up this kind of half joke a couple of months ago about the idea that if we get less crime if we cut back on the amount of money that we give them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Heresy. Heresy.
it matches the charts.
Well, and
That's crazy.
Here's another very interesting thing. You remember, what was it notable that happened about June of 2012? What happened there? Let's see. What happened in 2012 that was supposed to just drive the crime out through the roof? Oh, that's right. They let all the people out of jail in the middle of 2012, and said that, oh my God, now everything's going crazy, and they just happen to have the TV cameras right there at the right time to show the people coming out of jail. And look at 2012's numbers. It's the lowest within 7 or 8 years either side, or not either side, but in the back of it, which certainly had better funding.
So and you need to remember that the jail funding, the extra 30 beds, are in both of these years, in 13 and 14. The city, going for the tax base, was not going to increase those 30 beds. It was going to pay for them still, continuing, but it wasn't going to double up the beds to 60 or 50. It was just going to continue the 30 beds. What they were going to do was open the juvenile justice centers, detention, and the other half there that has been closed. Juvenile justice is operating. It's
right.
operating.
No, that's true.
It just does not detain arrested juveniles. They are looked after by taking them up to Douglas County, is what's happening. That's inconvenient, and I agree with that. But it wouldn't have taken a sales tax to open that. If you had approximately, and these are approximate numbers, the water sewer surtax, if you would call it that, opened. It was about $1 million. It opened 30 beds. If you had doubled that, it would have given another $1 million to juvenile justice, and basically funded it at about the same numbers they were talking about for this last. It did not include giving extra help to the DA, which they were going to do, but I'm not sure what the DA was going to do, because they would not have had more beds than 30 extra beds. So
it's a three-legged tripod. It is, you need to have the DA to prosecute, you need to have somewhere to put them, and you need to be able to get them into the system. So all three of them need to be balanced in some way. If you're not going to balance them, then what are you doing? The other thing about this that makes it difficult to understand is here the police chief has not stopped talking to us. He's just as friendly to us as he's ever been. But the sheriff will no longer talk with Mike and I. He definitely doesn't want to talk with Bill, because we're the source of the problem. It's not crimes that are the source of the problem. We're the source of the problem. And we keep bringing forward these numbers, and those guys who are pushing for that, including the sheriff, they hate these numbers. These numbers are just they're lying sacks of something coming down from the OSP, and it just doesn't match what they're trying to sell you.
I think that they would be far better off if they would try to push and just say, listen, I realize these crime numbers aren't out of control. We want to serve you better than we have been. And just leave it at that, for
Don't
crying
lie
out
to
loud.
me. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And recognize the fact that the only people that got up to keep pushing for this was Peggy Goodwin on the only person on the budget committee for the county that is not dyed in the wool, nothing but property tax.
Right.
And Mike and I and Bill, and we were trying to convince the commissioners, hey, you said it's an emergency, let's see that he gets the money, and they did not want to give him the money. Who's the enemy here?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
okay.
That's sad.
All right, that's Grants Pass. What's the next one?
It's going to be county.
Okay.
We're trying to drive the message home.
Yes.
Okay, here's our 11-year run on this.
This is not what they said would happen. This is not what they said would happen when we got the 2014 numbers. They really staked it all on that. They rolled the dice saying, hey, you just wait till those numbers come in, and now what are they going to say? I feel that they're going to give us that 2-letter answer, Mike.
Yes. So what? Yeah. Here's an interesting thing: is that the last 2 years are the lowest on this entire chart. That is an amazing thing to me, and those two numbers are less than half of the 2004-2005 numbers. That's incredible to me.
When they had full funding, and keep in mind now, okay, let's take this thing on again. The biggest criticism that could be made, you need to understand the critics of your point of view, or you're going to be lost. The biggest criticism they have is, well, we're not reporting anything, except they got hit over the head so hard in 2013 and 14 about not reporting, and they weren't going to get the money unless they reported, and we kept turning down every property tax, and if we didn't have the numbers, that that they weren't, unless they're complete idiots, and I don't believe that they were going to start reporting things correctly. If that was their excuse, that doesn't bear out, because now they said, wait till we're reporting them now. We're reporting them now. Well, here they are, and they're reported. What do you see, gentlemen?
Yeah, and the other thing you need to know here, and I'll hit this one more time in the next slide, but the 36 in the middle in July is when the funding changed, and we let the people out of the jail.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so it surprises me even, we should have been at 32 or 38 or something like that, one would think. My feeling is that they hollered so loud and so loud, that the county ended up starting to take things into their own hands and say, I'm going to go do a neighborhood watch. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to get to know my neighbor. I'm going to go, take care of, buy a gate, buy a outside light, do things. Because
this is a fantastic point, great point, Bill, and what he's saying here is that, and this is also ties into something that Israel has been consulting with France about how to best deal with these attacks, and they said the very most effective way to put down future terrorist attacks is to allow your people to be armed, because Israel does it. They allow their people to walk around armed if they care to. And so in this particular case, the people of the county knew that, hey, you're on your own. So they took precautions and looked the crimes less. Now, we may be completely speculating about that, maybe totally wrong, but the numbers in the last 3 years since that time in 2012 are much less. They're not just less, they're much less.
And the other thing too, going back to this previous point, the first two bars way over on the left, that was during full funding and with what the county described as full staff. Well, now wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're going to be scientific about this at all, you need to look at the numbers and say, what are we learning? And not be deniers of everything. Why? It means nothing. Of course it means something. What does it mean? It looks like what it means is the more money you throw at it, the more money you invest wisely, the more money you invest wisely in this thing, the worse your results are.
Well, and I have a question about that, and Bill, maybe you know something about this. um, it's logical to come up with the theory that the reason why you get higher crime numbers when you have greater funding is that there is a greater police presence on the street and they're busting more people.
Yes, I
Okay,
think
I can
what
go with
I
that.
think when you go back here, you'll find that there are a lot more behavioral crimes back in the earlier days.
Ah,
They will go after small types of crimes, and therefore, one could argue take better care of the county, or one could argue make their books look better. But if your funding goes down some, you tend to hold your officers to deal with the more important. If you have more officers than you need and they're bored, they go out and find things to ticket.
right.
Um, as everyone knows, all of us are breaking some law every day. We just don't know what it is, and if we had the right people watching us, they would do something to us, I'm sure.
I know
I
we're
don't know
breaking
what
the
you're
law,
talking
and I
about,
don't
Bill.
care. Yeah, well, that's Keith Heck admitted to that.
Yes, I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. I never break the law.
You're right.
And I meant with exceptions.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
thank you.
Bill is breaking the law of averages just by showing us this. But what?
Okay, let me
Okay, so,
go to the next.
one other quick little thing.
Sure.
Don't forget what we've been saying is that people do this cost-benefit analysis, and it has to be. Look, it's got to be this. So the only thing that makes any sense on these numbers is to say that when you spend more money, you have more police catching you for smaller, your turn signal is out or something and things are much tougher about that. Well, the people have decided where the cost benefit analysis is, we're going to put up with more of these domestic kind of abuses, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but we're going to put up more with that, and because we want to keep more money in our pocket. Well, isn't that the only thing that makes sense, guys? Really?
Well,
That makes sense. Go
another
ahead.
thing that looks to me is if you look at the low numbers down here at the right for the county,
We
you
can't
got
look
to
at them.
remember.
Oh, now we can.
Yeah, you look at the county crimes here. If you look at the city crimes, what's the number there? 175, isn't it?
Yeah, I
At
think so.
2014. All
Yeah.
right. That means that in every 1,000 people in the city, 175 have stories. Out in the county, for every 1,000, only 25 have stories.
Right.
The cost-benefit analysis for somebody who doesn't hear much about much crime, they're comfortable. They haven't personally experienced.
You know what? Bill's got his finger on it. That's clarity right there. That's what's happening.
And so they end up saying, I'm not going to spend more. Things are doing pretty well out here for us. We're at 25 1,000. The city's got problems at 175 1,000. I don't hear much about the county, but I hear about the city.
And this thing about people not reporting their crimes. You mean to tell me that if you have your car stolen, that you're not going to report it to your insurance company, and you can't report it to the insurance company unless you report it to the police?
Right.
Well,
yeah, I had a conversation today with somebody, actually, that we had this exact conversation, and he was miffed. His wife's car got stolen some time ago, and he called, and they said, well, what do you want us to do? And I pressed him. He's a good enough friend. I pressed him a little bit, and I said, where's the problem? The problem that he saw was their attitude about it. Not that he expected them to run out with their cars and find his wife's car, but he was brushed off, was his feeling. That, well, we can't do anything about it, and too bad, and we might get out in a month and take a report, and so he kind of threw up his hands. And I said, whose fault is that? Is that your fault? I said, you need to push to have that turned in as a report. And we talked about it, a couple of other friends. And that was what he really came down to. He was for more crime, but the crime that happened, he wanted to be respected. Oh, I'm so sorry. If you'll do this and this, that would help us. We're shorthanded and so forth. But they were not hand in glove, and I know others who have called and said, you called down there. Now, this may have changed. You get new people and different day, but the feeling is a brush off. and we've even heard them say, well, if you had voted for the
Yes,
levy.
we have heard that. We've heard
Wow.
that.
And,
No kidding.
Wow.
So if you have that attitude at that end, the public gets angry with that. They don't
Well,
get angry that a person's shorthanded. They get angry that they're not being respected and looked at as because they have this happen once or twice in their life, maybe.
Right. And listen, it may be worse than that. It may be that they're coming at you with that to punish you so that you will then think and tell all your friends that, boy, if you want some action out of the sheriff's department, you're going to have to pass a levy. And before we get too far away from this cost-benefit analysis thing, we did the cost-benefit analysis, and here's the county's numbers here. You got the cost-benefit analysis and we decided that we don't want to raise our property taxes in order to have a greater funding. Why is that not okay? The numbers aren't out of control. I mean, if they were out of control, then maybe you could make the case that we're irrational somehow. But these numbers are not out of control. And so then why cannot we make why can't we make the case? Why can't it be okay that we're having this cost-benefit analysis and saying, hey, listen, there isn't any more bang in the buck for me here?
I'll tell you my answer to that. The reason it's not okay is because we have the lowest property tax in the state, and we have no right to have that.
And government wants more money.
That's right. And so you're supposed to pay because you already have had a good deal here, and now it's time to divvy up.
Now it's time to pony up, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
The OSP.
Hey, one other thing about this. I had my mic off. One other thing about this is it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Because someone calls in, as you were just saying, and they've called in to report something, and the person taking the call says, well, we can't really help you, then that means less people are going to call in, and even if they're keeping track of them, well, people aren't reporting it. Why the heck would I report it if you're going to give me that kind of attitude?
Yeah. And we as the public don't know what it means to do any of this and say, I like to report a crime. Well, you could go online if it's XYZ and do this online. You could have these options, and it could get reported. But it's like, well, I don't know how to push you to report something. I just say it. And then things are supposed to happen about how I do that.
But they should be pushing people to report it because we're killing them with the numbers. And if they're saying, well, you look at 2014, that'll prove it, and they're still killing them with the numbers, okay, then what they should do is they should redouble their efforts to be sure that everybody reports it, and then the numbers will be higher and we'll give them the dang money. But they're not doing that.
Of course. That just seems logical. Well, maybe that's the problem.
Well, they should talk with the commissioners and make it up if they have to. Like Roy Lizzie, just completely make up stories out of nothing, and like Cheryl Walker, just people are telling me this. Well, until you get the vote, and it's 80% against you, Cheryl and Roy. But I mean, so you could just completely make it up if you're that desperate and serious. But as it turns out, maybe the numbers aren't there. Wouldn't you think that it would benefit them to show that they said to go look at 2014? We're looking at it.
Yep. And didn't somebody in their wisdom say there is no 2014? It'll never be out there. It's not going to happen.
We've heard that before.
Okay, now we have a third one.
All right. OSP.
Okay, here we go.
All right. OSP, as you can see, has had an increasing. If you look at a ramp here, it's a little dip, but by and large, it's an increasing presence in our county. Obviously, we're up significantly from last year, and from the year before we were down. I'm not too sure why that is, because in 12, the last half of 12, the OSP supposedly picked up all that accounts for these numbers of 634. But if that's the case, all of 13, we were supposed to have exactly the same slack, and it's down. Now it's back up. They're picking up more slack. But I also have um, another thing to let you know, and that is in January of 14, they put on 4 more officers to the county.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a greater presence in the OSP to help us there, and so they did pick up more. What you need to know, however, is in both 13 and 14, what we'll see last as our numbers here, I gave 100%, every single one of these calls I gave to the county. I didn't give a single one to the city.
So those OSP are reflected in these low numbers of 2013 and 2014.
Absolutely. 100% of OSP is only in the county.
Right, and so any action that are part of these numbers on the green chart here, which are the OSP doing something in the city of Grants Pass, you're just basically giving them a freebie on that one, and you're saying that's county.
And keep in mind, this is not per thousand. The green numbers, the OSP numbers, are raw numbers, not per thousand.
Yes, right. Those are incidences. In other words, the number of times, the incident responses that they had for our county. So these are not per thousand. Yes, thank you, Dale. Right. It does say that up there, but per thousand, we would have a crime problem at that point.
Now, Bill, didn't you tell us that the way the numbers came out, those red numbers, the way that they came out in the county was 25 per thousand would be something like about 5,000, 5 or 6,000 crimes?
It's 1,215 crimes plus OSP of 682.
Okay, my mistake. Okay, so 1,215, and then you combine that together with, no, that is combined together for the OSP.
Yeah, no, the 1,215 then combines with the 682 to bring you to 1,897.
That's where I got that number. Okay, yeah. All right. So it's a little bit like comparing red apples to green apples, but okay, all right.
Gotcha. Yes, but I mean, and we don't have incident reports numbers for the sheriff. So, but when you look at this and you realize that every single one of these reports, an incident response is attributed to the county. And so, therefore, it should be sending their numbers off the charts, and yet, whoops, they don't.
And also, many of these are assists. They are not simply OSP showing up all by themselves. They're there to back up the county or the city police.
Right.
Probably mostly the county police to back them up. They might be there to back up OLCC or somebody else too, possibly.
Yeah. They could be. It is hard to know because they are all over the county. They are picking up the roads and the spots that are not covered, or the times of day that are not covered. But in fairness to those who are naysayers on the county's growing crime problem, I said, all right, let's say that every single incident response they have is for the county. Let's give it to the county. And we still come out at 25-25.
Okay, all right. So one of the things that we've done here, as we've said, as this thing over my shoulder shows, just wait till 2014 and everything will be proven. All you guys have been against this property tax. You're going to eat crow once 2014 numbers are out. Well, they're now out. Okay, this was their big prediction. But in order to be squeaky clean and fair about this, as much as we can be, guys, please give me your best argument against what we're showing tonight. Why are we full of it?
That wouldn't be my area. The only thing you could say is that in the county, I feel that people they've kind of had it with maybe. I have a friend who's lived in the same house in the same area here in town 42 years. Grew up a mile from that. He said, I talked to him a lot about the sheriffs in the old days and all his life, and he's never had a real respect for the sheriff's office. He says, they come after the fact, they do what they want, they show up. I don't know that that's true today. But there is a perception in the old-time crowd who's lived here in the county that they're self-sufficient, and they keep their numbers down. And they scare people off, and they have dogs, and they have neighbors, and so those numbers are low. Why they're lower now? Because this is all, remember, on population base. So when you're back in 2004, that's not, well, you had a smaller population, the number, no, that's per thousand of whatever number we had. So it's apples and apples all the way through.
Okay, so, Bill, and I hate to do this all the time, but I'm a gun guy, and I believe in guns, and I believe in the deterrent power of a gun. So, could there be a perception that has been created on the part, of criminals that you probably ought not mess around with people in the county because they know their funding is low, and so they're probably armed because they know that's the only protection they have.
It's the old, you don't see many robberies in the police station.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Except for Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Yes. Why would you, like I brought up, if you had the Cave Junction School of Guns, nobody's going to go in there and try to shoot the place up.
Nope,
yeah, and listen, I've said I would love to have a sheriff in this town because I've seen this done before, and I think it's very effective. Where the sheriff comes on and says, "Listen, we have a funding issue. We don't have enough funds to do all the things we want to do, but the one thing that we're going to do is we're going to staff the front office with volunteers every single day, all day, not just one day a week, Monday. We're going to be expediting concealed handgun licenses, and every month I'm going to come out and tell you how many people we signed up, and I'm going to give you the numbers that we have in the county, how many people are armed in the county, and everybody will know that. And I think that being common knowledge, if you flog that the same way you do, oh my God, we're so unsafe, then we'll be a lot safer.
Now, Keijo would then have all new news to report how many people were safe because of their guns. And then people would listen to this and they'd go, boy, I'm going to move to the safest county in America.
Well, and you know what? That's actually a pretty darn good point there, Dale.
That'd be a strange saying, hey, I've got good news this month. Gun permits are up. We have now another 3,500 guns in the county. That's just this month. Proud of
and we could get grants. Remember when Diane Hoover came in? She said, "Well, I got kind of good news," and she said it was good news, and the commissioners were like, "Well, it's the good news." Well, infant mortality rate is up.
No, I think that was the bad news, Dale. The good news is she got the grant.
But she said, and we got a grant because of that. And Cheryl Walker's like, really? Yeah, it's the good news. That was the good news because we got a grant.
Now, listen.
So maybe we could get grants because we're stopped. Instead of being grants pass, we could be grant hold on to it.
Yes, but that's a good one, Dale. But I think though is that this scenario that I'm presenting runs counter to the narrative required in order to get a levy passed, and so that blows it out the window. I mean, they're worshiping the funding train here, and what must we do? How can we manipulate our populace instead of actually being concerned about our safety? Now, I would be very interested to know what the numbers are nationally of concealed handgun license carriers going off the well, that's not the right way of saying it, off the wagon. I was going to say off the wagon, but that doesn't make any sense.
Off the charts?
Just going crazy and start shooting up people. How many? What are the crime stats by concealed handgun license holders?
No, come on. No.
Well, yes,
but if you listen to Cheryl Walker, we're more problem than ISIS.
Right,
and people said that too.
And the right wingers are, the ones that you really need to be concerned about here in the county, and not the, ISIS.
Well, let's look at the political ramifications of this. If all three of us were commissioners, Okay. One of the things we would do is we'd make sure that the sheriff had at least that $1 million that came in from the timber funds. What happened to that money?
Absolutely.
Now, you do understand, I hope everybody understands, that if any of us run or get elected or whatever, that the first thing that's going to happen is there's a whole bunch of people who are going to try to kick us out of office because we're going to solve part of the problem
Yes.
without a levy.
Right.
Well, I think 20% will, but I think maybe more like 70% won't.
Right. Yes, but I think that the issue when it comes to, say, the recall of Sandy Casanelli or other people has to do with the sentiment of the staff involved, and that 20% that squeaks a whole lot and gets greased. So the bottom line is if we do get good people in there who are interested in doing things correctly and not worrying so much about funding the beast, we need to support those people and be ready, because the recall effort is going to start as soon as it possibly can, probably 6 months in.
6 months in.
They
All
will
right.
launch.
One other idea I just had today, was thinking about cutting back on staff, okay? How can you cut back on staff and not make the union go crazy? So one thing that you could do to say to the unions is, listen, we'd like to cut back on some of the staff. We want a report from the new HR director about how we can cut back 1%, 2% on the staff across the board. Yeah, but that'll put people out of jobs. No. Here's what we'll do. We'll take somebody from Public Works and we'll take somebody from the assessor's office, whatever. We'll take, as many people as we can, and we'll take those dozen people and we'll offer them as county workers to the sheriff. They'll still have their jobs, and now they can be answering the phones. Yes, how can I help you? Well, let me type that up for you. I'm happy to take your report.
Hey.
Yes. I'm sure that'll go over well with them.
Yeah, but you see the point is,
right.
They can't accept that. It would
solve
some of the problems.
They would.
It would, because these people would
pocket A and it should have come out of pocket B.
Yeah.
And you can't take that money and put it over here.
Yes, of course.
Well, they're still county workers, aren't they? They're still relating to the public as poorly as they do, still doing it badly.
I like what you're doing here, Dale, and what it is that you tick these people off so badly that they quit voluntarily.
They would. It would be attrition. I don't want to work.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. I like it.
So across the board cut, wouldn't a 10% goal be wonderful? And the HR director would quit immediately, of course. So your new HR director then comes in and says, well, okay, we will find full employment, because that's what they're about, right? How can the union say, no, we don't want full employment? Oh, really? Okay, and so then you move them over to the area that they're needed. Records.
Right.
Yes.
Registering people for their firearms. The whole point of this thing that I've been trying to do is not so much, elect me, screw that. I mean, never mind. What I'm trying to say is to offer a plan that maybe a couple of people could say, the guy's stupid, but I kind of like that plan. And so if we can get other people to look at the plan and say, yeah, maybe that will solve. The problem is, it solves a problem.
Well,
yes.
There's no money in helping people,
Yes. Hey, we have one more chart here, Bill.
We do.
Summary.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Summary.
Yes.
Real quick.
Okay, here we go.
There's the comparison, and what you'll realize, and I didn't put the percentage down below, but all the way back to 2004, in general, the percentage has been about 20-80 split between the county and the city.
Right. 20%
county, 80%. Now, what's interesting to me is the last 2 years. In 2013, it was 86-14.
Wow.
Okay. Split, and this year it's 84-16.
Wow.
And that is giving all of OSP now from 12 back. OSP is prorated according to crime. All right. So the city has absorbed some of OSP in those other years. These 2 years we absorbed all OSP in the county, and if you didn't do that, if you prorated OSP for the way crime is happening, it's actually in 2014 it's 87% city, 87.5% city, and 12.5 in the county.
Jeez.
A huge shift over what has been going on the last 8 or 9 years, and that's significant. And I'm not sure I have all the answers for why that shift happened. What you could say is what they have been saying. Well, we're either not taking the reports aren't being made, or there is no crime at those levels in the county because the county has gotten on the ball.
No, that argument's not going to work. And for those of you whose heads are spinning with numbers, I'm with you. For those of you whose heads are spinning with numbers, when you look at those last two bars, the last two on the right, don't forget what they said to us was, as soon as you see those 2014 numbers, you will see the proof of what we've been saying. That was where they bet the farm.
Yep.
As soon as you hear that, because now we've been reporting it. We got your message. You want to see the numbers. These will be the numbers, and then you will eat crow, all you people who have been voting against the property tax levy. Well, there you go.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure glad I didn't have to eat crow.
Yeah, yuck. Now, what are they going to say now? What are they going to say now? It doesn't make any difference. It's everything we said before. Wait till 2020.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what? All right.
So we want more money. Give us money.
That's all that they're saying, and the proof of that, the bottom line proof is, after the levy failed, they stopped talking about it. It was an emergency. No. Okay, so we're going to talk tomorrow night about something else. We're going to come back Sundays and Wednesdays. We have our that's going to be Wednesday night. Tomorrow is Wednesday. No, it's not. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Okay.
Tomorrow's Tuesday, but oddly enough, the weekly business session is tomorrow. So this is probably what's throwing you off.
Yeah. So tomorrow's weekly business session is going to be at 1:30. You can come to that and speak, and then you can see, will they let me speak? That'll be an interesting question. It was not based on yelling out bad words. It was based on the fact that I said, I think we're going to need to move along without these guys because they've been caught breaking the law.
You turned your back.
They were caught breaking the law.
Yeah.
They can't talk their way out of that. They were caught breaking the law.
And if you ask me, this is retaliation. And listen, even if it isn't, that's what I'm saying. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm a candidate, and they won't let me talk. That's nice. Okay. All right. So, and then on Wednesday, we're going to have another chance for you to vote, and this time we're going to be talking about an issue where you didn't get a chance to vote before, and that's on the fact that the state has found that these guys are guilty of breaking law. That they said that they were manipulating the reports, that they were meeting and saying instead of following the law that they were doing it wrong, and they don't like to find people guilty. They definitely don't, but they did, and so now the commissioners decided to buck the system. The OGEC can hardly believe it because all they're going to get is a letter of education, but they say they already know. And as Edgar Campuzano pointed out in the Courier when he talked with the Government Ethics Commission, they don't like to find people guilty. They'd rather say, well, they were just they used bad judgment and they won't do it again. Except Keith Heck said, you know, the motto of this board is, I know we're breaking the law and I don't care. That's not going to fly with the state. Finally, we put in all kinds of reports much worse than this one. This one stuck.
Yeah, and it was unanimous.
It was. So they're going to kick. You know, why would they do that? And we'll talk about that on Wednesday night, but I think probably the reason why is, one, two of them don't want to retire with this negative thing on their record, and one of them has aspirations to go elsewhere in the state. This is not going to look good. So what do they have to lose? They've already lost our faith. So they might as well go ahead and say, and then, you know, once they're found finally guilty and given, you know, $1.95 fine, they'll just say, so. So join us on Wednesday night. Join us every night. And be sure when you see Bill Hunker on the street to thank him or blame him for the myths that he's promulgating.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yes.
That was going to be the end of the show, but then Bill said something. Do you want to say something more, Mike? I try to
No, I
slow way
don't. I
down at
want
the
you
end.
to end the show.
Well, I've been trying to, but every time I try to, Bill says something else.
Oh, let's go another hour.
Oh, jeez. He's doing it again. Goodbye, gentlemen. Cut his mic.